Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our bond cash transfer GL Journal functionality webcast town hall. My name is Corey Cortez with Fiscal CMO. Today, I wanted to give you guys a heads up since we have not yet posted this presentation on ServiceNow yet. If you log in to your WebEx, down here at the bottom left, you'll see a view info. You can go ahead and click that, and then the event material will be right there. So go ahead and download the presentation. We will have this on ServiceNow as soon as we can. We will update the previous bond cash transfer town hall presentation that's in there, so that way you're always up to date. Okay. Bond cash transfer is, just so everyone has a background, it's something that is moving into Fiscal from your current transaction request paper business process. And so what we've done is we originally had 3 release groups. So you have a group 1, which has already gone live. And then we were going to have a group 2, which was supposed to go live last week. But because there was a little bit of confusion and we decided we needed to do a better job to prepare you all, we moved group 2 departments to March 30th. So there's just now one group 2, which is March 30th. So all Fiscal departments who have to use bond cash transfers for their AP vouchers should begin to transition starting March 30th. That's not a hard deadline, but it's when we expect departments to at least start to use Fiscal for these transactions. If you would like to try this today, the functionality is there. There's nothing stopping you. You can go into your GL journal page and follow some of the steps later and do one of these transactions, just so you can start building your business process and getting used to it in preparation for March 30th. We do recommend that. Okay, so what exactly are these bond cash transactions or transfers that I'm talking about? So some departments, so we've invited only departments that have them, use bond funds from an expenditure fund that you would expend money from in the AP voucher. And you have your proceeds fund where all the cash sits, and you need to move money from the proceeds fund over to the expenditure fund, and you'll do that using the GL journal. Today, you would use a paper transaction request form, and you'd wait until your SCOJE came in. You no longer need to do that. And so this is for most BCTs related to AP vouchers, not all of them, because we do know that there are BCTs with multiple TCs. So for an example, if you have a TC38 and a TC24 in the same, or multiple BUs, you'll still need to do the paper form. So that should be more of an exception thing. The majority of these bond cash transfers related to vouchers should happen in Fiscal. So to help everyone understand exactly what I'm talking about, how to do it in Fiscal, we've created this video. How to do it's on our Fiscal YouTube. To get started, here it is. Before I play it for everybody, I'd like to give everyone a nod off to subscribe. So if you see the subscribe button, go ahead and click it. This is going to have all of our YouTube how-to content. We're doing our best, since we've noticed that a lot of users like the video content a little more, to create as much of this as we can whenever it's reasonable. So if you guys have any kind of process that you want us to create a video in, that's the kind of feedback we like to hear. You can always send that over to fiscal.cmo@fiscal.ca.gov. and we'll try to get it done.
Welcome to Fiscal TV's How-To series. In this video, we will cover creating a GL journal for a bond cash transfer. The purpose of a bond cash transfer GL journal is to transfer cash from the bond proceeds fund to the bond expenditure fund for all bond-related AP vouchers. After you have created your bond expenditure voucher, begin by navigating to the Create Update Journal Entries page. Once you reach the page, enter your department's business unit and the journal date for the transaction. The journal date must be 2 business days prior to the related voucher scheduled due date. This means that a voucher scheduled for Thursday, January 9th, 2020 would have a journal date of Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. Click Add. In the Header tab, you will enter the same types of information that your department would include in a transaction request form for a bond cash transfer, including the journal description, legal authority, and reason for request. Be sure to include your BU number, voucher ID, and scheduled due date of the voucher in the journal description field. Enter BCT into the SEO type of transaction field. Attach any related documents as you do today. Click the Lines tab. In the Lines tab, enter the appropriate chart field values for each journal line. Remember, do not enter the pending cash account, as due to due from accounts will automatically populate. For bond cash transfers, in each line you must enter the related AP voucher using the specific format of capital VCHR-voucher ID in the transaction description field. If the noted format is not used, the bond cash transfer query will not identify the transaction. This may result in delays in the SEO approval process. Complete budget check and submit for approvals per the usual process. After the GL journal is approved by your department approver, it will workflow to SEO for final approval. After you have completed and approved your bond cash transfer GL journal, you can navigate to the bond cash transfer query to review the transactions. Begin by navigating to the query viewer page. Enter the query ZZ_GL_BCT_QRY. Use the fields from journal date and to journal date to narrow the selection of your transactions. If you are looking for something specific, you could also enter the voucher ID or journal ID. Click View Results. After the query has loaded, confirm that your GL journal is linked to the correct AP voucher by comparing the journal ID and voucher ID headers. Here, you can also check the status of both GL journals and the AP vouchers as needed. For more information, refer to Job Aid Fiscal 404. If you have any questions, please reach out to the FSC at Fiscal Service Center at fiscal.ca.gov.
All right. So I know that might have been a lot, and some of you guys might have questions on the video. So if you have any questions, please ask them now.
Hi, we have a few questions. The first one is, are the account codes used on these GL journals always 6210000 and 65210000?
Hi, this is Nancy Tedlos, and I'll be answering that question for you. And yes, that account code should be auto-populated. They're the due to and due from. So when you're entering your BCT GL journal, there's no need to, because it is self-balancing, there's no need to enter pending cash. And so when you go and save the GL journal, account code 621 and 6521 will auto-populate for you.
Thank you, Nancy. The next question is, what should we use as project ID and reporting structure? Should we copy it from the voucher?
You would enter what is needed. I don't think that that's required for the bond cash transfers. However, if that's required for your department, then go ahead and enter those information.
Okay. So if you guys have any questions throughout this presentation, please ask. I'll be pausing throughout and then taking as many questions as possible. We're going to continue. We've got a few more slides, but I think we've got another question coming in.
Hi, we have a few more questions. The first one is, what is the process if the BCT journal is denied by SEO and the voucher is already entered with the scheduled due date that is now passed?
Your SEO analyst will work with you in regards to the BCT transfer. If for whatever reason the BCT journal is denied online, they may require you to provide them with the paper transaction so that the AP voucher can be paid. Excuse me.
My understanding is that really shouldn't happen, but if it does, later in this presentation, I've got some support email that you can actually use to connect with your SEO analyst. So I'll get that to you all later.
The next question is, since the accounts being used are the 6521 and 621. Will this duplicate the SCO interface for cash transfers that are also using the same accounts? Could you please provide more clarification on that question?
I'm wondering if that question was about, the inbound transfers versus outbound transfers.
If so, then no, because if you do a transaction in Fiscal, it will go in the outbound interface, and it has a different prefix to prevent it from coming back in.
So inbound and outbound. Outbound is from Fiscal to SCO Legacy, and inbound is from SCO Legacy to Fiscal.
The next question is, our current transaction requests post to multiple BUs that are not our own. Will we be able to enter those lines?
You will need to follow current business process, which is to submit a paper transaction to SEO.
The next question is, how long does it normally take for SEO to approve?
It's their normal approval time. So whatever it is currently, I cannot, I don't have the exact time frame for you.
In the video, there's that query that has both the voucher and the GL journal. That's the same query that you guys can use, and SCO will use that as well to make the linkage. And that's why it's very important you enter that VCHR, which we'll get into a little more as well. And that will be kind of how you can see where everything is at and manage your transactions with SCO.
The next question is, what should be the account for the second line for the revenue account?
Is this pertaining to bond cash transfer? Because there is not a revenue account.
Okay. So yeah, please feel free to keep asking questions. We also have a job aid. So this job aid, Fiscal 404, SCO approval of GL journals and AP journal vouchers, is more broad than the bond cash transfers. But on page 15 and 16, you'll see some information about bond cash transfers, so I'll just go there. So this is so this has been updated, right? So we've got our group 2 is now just the March 30th. So this is the full listing of departments that should be transacting and maybe should start in March 30th. Although we do recommend you try to do it now to start building your business processes. And here's more information about the bond cash transfers overall, especially with some documentation about that VCHR, and then a link to the video if you're having trouble finding it. You have another question?
We have one question about the job aid. They are asking if the required chart fields are listed in the job aid.
Let's take a look.
The required chart field are not listed in the job aid, but essentially you would have to provide your fund, account, reference, program, and reference. So those are the required chart fields.
If you guys think that's helpful, we can look at adding that into this job aid. These job aids are always updated with any kind of information that you would find helpful. So we'll have a takeaway for that one.
We would like to clarify for one of the questions that was asked about account codes used on these GL journals.
So I apologize. So going back to account codes on the GL journals, 621 0000 and 6521 000. They're not due from, they're not auto-populated. They are the transfers to other accounts and transfer from other accounts. So those are needed for your for you to enter. Those are the required account codes.
And then Nancy, maybe that's something that we could add into the job ad as well to help out some of our department managers. Take a look. Okay. What we've got here is on slide 6 is we have a best practices for bond cash transfer GL journals to be approved in a timely fashion. This goes back to some of the questions we've already answered. Best practice is to include the journal in the journal description, legal authority, and reason for request box. Your legal authority for bond cash transfers, that's basically the same thing you'd put on your paper transaction request form. The BU that you're transacting for, the voucher ID, it's just another point for you to reference later, and then the scheduled due date of the voucher to make sure that to help SEO prioritize. You'd want to make sure that the source you're using is BCT, so that way it gets accounted for properly and you're getting the right people working on it. You do not need to enter pending cash accounts, and so I think that is what we were trying to say earlier, since those due to, due from accounts will auto-populate for these bond cash transfers. And then you have to be very specific about the transaction description that you're entering in the GL journal lines in the transaction description field. You want to make sure you include VCHR-voucher ID, whatever your voucher ID is. So for example, it could be VCHR-00001234. And that's an 8-digit code from the voucher ID. And that is because Fiscal uses that ID in that specific case to link to the query. And so that query is how SEO does a lot of their work. And so if it's not linking to the query, it means that there might be some delays, which is not good for anybody. So please enter that code. All right, so just some other reminders to help you save time. We saw that a lot of departments have been attaching screenshots of the voucher to the GL journal. You don't need to do that. That query, they can just click into it and then it'll open up on another screen using that voucher ID. So that's why that VCHR is really important. And then you really want to make sure you're validating your debits and credits before sending for approvals. That's basically the one thing that might slow things down if your credits and debits are off or backwards. Or so just give it a quick validation, make sure it's good to go. And then, like I was saying earlier, you can always reach out to SEO if you have any questions. You can reach out to them at SEO, Treasury, SVCS, I'm assuming for services, at sco.ca.gov. So that's SEO, Treasury, SVCS at sco.ca.gov. So they will help support anything there's a denial if you need to know why, or any kind of policy type of questions related to bond cash transfers. I want to make it clear that the State Controller's Office is transitioning to Fiscal for most of those bond cash transfers related to AP vouchers. We've already given you a few cases where not all of these will be able to occur, but the bulk of them should be done in Fiscal. And then we do know that it might feel like it's a big change, but we need to know more about why. We need to know more about why you guys might feel resistance to the transition, and where we can help you transition. And we really want to recommend that your department's transition as early as possible after that March 30th go live if you're that group 2, so that you have enough time to adjust your business processes before SEO stops accepting paper in the future. Right now, they're still going to accept paper. SEO does understand that this is going to be a transition that's going to take some time. So we do know that, but we'd like to get departments moving in this direction because there will be some point where they will stop. That's yet to be determined. In that vein, I wanted to ask a few questions about the BCT process. What we're going to ask you to do is go to menti.com. If you just pull out your phones or on your computer, you go to www.menti.com, and then you can enter the code 377444. And then if you do that, what we're trying to understand is if you understand the BCT process, and then if you kind of feel like the department's ready to use it or not. So at this point in the presentation, we're going to be here answering questions. We can see we're getting some responses coming in.
We have one question. They're asking, where can we get the PowerPoint slides that are present during this presentation?
Okay. So we have our Menti going. You'll see here under the WebEx, there's two parts to that. First part of that is we will post this presentation on ServiceNow. It's not there yet, but we're working diligently to get it up there. The second part of that is if you would like it now, before it's on ServiceNow, you can go to your WebEx login. And so that's when you get your email, you click onto it, it asks you for your first name, last name, and your email address. So down at the bottom, there's going to say request for more information. You can click the more info button. And then right there, under the event materials, is a link to this PDF that I'm using to present off of right now. So it looks like we might have a question or two more coming in. I think the key question right now is we know that based on the initial results that we're getting in, it looks like there's kind of a middle understanding of the process and a middle of departments users who are ready to start the process. So I'm going to ask the question, please go to menti.com, use the code 327444. Is there anything that we're missing in the BCT video that you would find, or even the job aid, that you would find helpful for your understanding, so that way we can get your understanding up? Is it sessions that you need in person? We're happy to see if we could set something like that up. Is it, do we need to add content to the video in any type of way? Do we need to add content to the job aid? How would you guys like us to help you and your end users if you're not an end user? So if you're a department liaison, how can we help get your department ready to go for bond cash transfers? First feedback we got, chart fields and required attachments, any? Just so we can answer that quickly. I think we've already gone over the required chart fields, but I think that the required attachments, Nancy, the question, is there a lot of required attachments now? What is required right now for attachments?
So basically, they would have to talk to their SEO analyst, and whatever is needed for them to approve the bond cash transfer is what they will need to attach.
Mm-hmm. So we'll do our best to update the job aid Fiscal 404 with that information. My assumption right now is that it's kind of whatever you do today. If you attach something today, you would continue attaching that tomorrow. Because we were throwing kind of ideas around about, because SEO is transitioning over to using Fiscal for these, and they will stop accepting paper. So what we were getting some feedback from departments saying that maybe you're not ready yet. So what we're really looking for is things that we can do to help you get ready for this transition.
Hi, we have one request. Brian asks, can we please get a timeline of the process as intended by Fiscal?
Okay, so that sounds like the timeline between when you do your AP voucher and the bond cash transfer. So let me help clarify, Nancy. If I'm a department and I'm doing, bond expenditure, I'm trying to spend some money out of my bond expenditure fund, right? And let's say I'm trying to spend that money in 2 weeks. When would I do the bond cash transfer related to that expense?
So in the job aid, it does state that the BCT GL journal should be dated 2 days prior to the scheduled payment date of the AP voucher. So for instance, if the AP voucher was dated for January 9th, then your BCT GL journal should have been January 7th. So this would allow your SEO analyst to review your bond cash transfer GL journal and make sure all the information required is on there.
So if your department is doing like a net 30-day voucher where we're trying to make a payment in 30 days, you want to make sure that the GL journal had a 2-day prior. You could probably do them both on the same day. And then SEO, as long as you're following all the recommendations, SEO will process and approve, as long as your AP voucher is going through your approvals and it's in SEO's queue, and your GL journal is been through your department approvals and is in SEO's queue, SEO should be able to manage the transaction at that point. Not only the job aid has that information, but so does the video. So you can reference the video if you need some help there. Hopefully that helps you answer that question. If not, please ask again, and we'll see if we can get some better job, if some more information, or there's something specific that you would like us to clarify.
It looks like we have a follow-up to that. They want clarification, asking, so we need to plan the payments out to the expected day that it should be paid?
I believe so. You would have to look at, I forgot which tab it is on the AP voucher. There is a tab that shows you when your scheduled payment date is supposed to be. And so you just need to make sure your GL journal is 2 days prior to that.
And one thing to add to that, I would say that business process sounds like, to me, it's very similar to what you would do today, where your AP processor would create the voucher, and then somebody at your department would fill out a transaction request form. That same person, or maybe the GL group at your department, might just do the GL journal. right, so we still have a half hour for the session scheduled. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go off camera because it looks like the questions are starting to slow down a little bit. And then we'll keep answering questions and give departments a few more minutes, get any questions in. If not, then we're going to call it a day. All right, thank you, everyone.
Hi, we have one more question asking about the process. And they want to confirm that 1, they create the voucher, and then 2, create the journal ID with a date backed up 2 days from the scheduled due date. Is their understanding correct?
That is correct. And as Corey mentioned, it's listed in both the job aid and the training video. I feel like that one's already answered.
We have two more questions. When we create the cash letter, do we need to enter the department project number, agency code, and activity?
So in regards to the the GL journal for BCT, I don't believe those chart field values are required. However, you may want to reach out to your SEO analysts and ask them directly if that's needed for your specific department and for your specific GL journal.
And then Nancy, could you please repeat again what are the required chart fields for these GL journals?
So you do need your fund, your reference, the account, and program. Those are the required chart fields.
And then just to add some context, because for my own clarification, SEO, on your transaction request form, you wouldn't have your activity or your project ID. You wouldn't have your department detail level chart fields on the transaction request form. So would there be a need to include those on the bond cash transfer?
So you're correct. Not necessarily that they would have that on your transfer letter. However, I have seen GL journals that do have that information on there, and SEO has approved them. So again, I would suggest that you work directly with your SEO analyst to clarify whether or not your specific department needs to provide that detail level.
All right, so we're not going to get any more questions. I want to thank everybody for attending this afternoon. If you do have any follow-up questions, I wanted to say that you can get SEO BCT support, just to reiterate, at the email SEO Treasury, that's TREASURY SVCS at sco.ca.gov. So those are, you want to reach out to that email with specific questions like Nancy was talking about. If you're confused about what is going to get approved or what might not get approved based on SEO policy, that's going to be the right group. For Fiscal related questions about how to do it, or if you're having any troubles with the functionality not working, you're going to want to do Fiscal Service Center at fiscal.ca.gov. If you have any feedback for our change management team, you can contact our Fiscal CMO mailbox at fiscal.cmo@fiscal.ca.gov. And because we're not getting any more questions, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, it seems like we have one more question.
We received the SEO JE. Do we need to do the reclass entry to key in department chart fields?
So for these, if you do your bond cash transfer directly in Fiscal, it's going to be what we consider at Fiscal an outbound. So that's going from Fiscal to SEO legacy. The same way, if you were to mail or fax or send in a paper transaction request, is going from your department to SEO. It's the same type of thing. That will not interface back in because it's already been sent out. So we wouldn't want to double count anything. And at that point, if you add in any kind of detailed chart field information for your bond cash transfer that you would use to track this transfer, then you wouldn't need to do any kind of reclassification for this. If you do this by paper and it gets sent in, you send this paper over to SEO, it will be part of the inbound process, which is going to come in as just a GL journal with the appropriation and level chart fields that Nancy described earlier, the required chart fields. And those you may need to reclassify. So it's better just to do it directly into Fiscal if you decide to use those chart fields, because you're saving yourself some time, you're saving yourself some need to reclassify, and you can kind of do it in one place. That's the recommendation. Although we do know that there are, as I stated earlier, if you have bond cash transfers with multiple transaction codes, like a TC38 and TC24, or you have multiple BUs, you'll still need to submit the paper. We do understand that. But from their analysis, it looks like the majority of them can be done directly into Fiscal. Okay. And so like I said, we're not getting any more questions. If you have questions, you can contact the service center. That will go to Nancy's queue. So she'll be able to answer and reach out to you directly using tracking on FSC. So that's our ServiceNow portal. So you definitely want to send them to ServiceNow, to the Fiscal Service Center email. But if you have policy questions, you want to reach out to your SCO BCT support analyst. So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. Good day.